The muscle-up is one of the most well-known beginner skills in calisthenics. The explosiveness of the movement combined with the low barrier to entry makes it the first dream skill for many future calisthenics athletes. In today's video, I'm going to give you everything you need to know to unlock the muscle-up as quickly as possible, including prerequisites, common misconceptions, a conceptual understanding, and the only 2 exercises you'll need to unlock the skill. Alright guys, so before you even think of starting to learn the muscle up, it's important that you can do 10 clean body weight pull-ups. The muscle up is a pulling strength based skill, so it's important to have a good foundation when it comes to your body weight pull-ups. In terms of how you should view the muscle up, you want to view it as pulling around the bar, not through the bar, but around the bar, okay? In traditional pull-ups, we are just worried about pulling ourselves over the bar in a pretty vertical up and down motion, right? But with the muscle up, it's important to have a C shape as you go over the bar. So you want to think of pulling out and then in, not just simply vertically, okay? That's the biggest difference between pull-ups and the muscle up. This skill is largely based on the fast twitch muscle fibers in your back. And so you'll see that most of the muscle up training is going to come down to one exercise: explosive pull-ups. We can teach our body how to produce the necessary explosive power needed to get over the bar by doing explosive pull-ups. We'll get into that later and talk about exactly how you should be viewing the explosive pull-up. But understand that the skill is based purely on your explosive pulling strength, which is why even people who do 20 plus pull-ups cannot do a muscle up, because they have not taught their body how to properly recruit the fast twitch muscle fibers needed to generate the explosive power to get over the bar. Using bands is also going to be a great tool for you to learn the technique needed for the muscle up. By utilizing explosive pull-ups and banded muscle ups, we are able to target the 2 direct weaknesses that most people have when it comes to actually performing the skill. Explosive pull-ups are going to focus on teaching our body how to recruit fast twitch muscle fibers to generate enough power to get over the bar, and banded muscle ups are going to teach us the necessary technique to perform the skill efficiently. As for common mistakes when it comes to the muscle up, the biggest and the one you need to avoid at all costs is going to be the chicken wing. Whenever you do any sort of muscle up or explosive pull up, the arms should travel together. You should never have one arm leading followed by the other arm. This is horrible. It's going to lead to an internal rotator cuff injury and a whole lot of other issues. So avoid that entirely. If you have this bad habit, you want to make sure that you train yourself to always throw both arms over at the same time. A common mistake I see is people use too wide of a grip in their muscle up. For explosive pull-ups and muscle-ups, you want to have a shoulder width grip. This is going to allow you to generate much more power when it comes to your muscle-ups. So make sure to keep this in mind. Bodyweight pull-ups will have a wider grip, and explosive work, explosive pulling will have a closer grip. It's also important to maintain control of your lower body. You want to keep the legs squeezed together and flexed. If your legs are dangling and you don't really have any tension in your lower body, it's going to kill your momentum when you do your explosive pull-ups. So what I like to think of is I like to think that there's a wall in front of my shins that I'm constantly pushing against. So whenever I do my explosive pull-ups, I'm thinking of constantly pushing against a wall like this. This activates my hip flexors as well as my core, so I keep a straight shape throughout my entire pulling motion, okay? So this is a good cue for you guys to utilize. Whenever you're doing your explosive pull-ups and muscle-ups, think of constantly applying a force forward. For beginners who are just starting to get their first few muscle-up reps, it's okay to kip, right? Bringing our knees up to generate momentum to get us over the bar, all right? But as you get stronger and as you get better at explosive pull-ups, you need to kip less and less. Keep the legs straight and tight. The swing is the most important part of the muscle up, and it's what's going to determine your trajectory as you're pulling. It's very important that you guys time the pull in relation to your swing. If you time the pull too early, you're going to completely kill your momentum. If you pull too late, your body's going to end up being too far away from the bar and you won't be able to transition over. However, if you time the pull as soon as your body's starting to swing backwards, the backwards force from the swing coupled with the vertical force of your pull will give you a net C-shaped trajectory up and over the bar that we're looking for. Some people think they need a huge swing to do the muscle up. However, all you need is just one step in front of you, right? Your swing should just look like this. So you guys will see that when I show an example of my explosive pull-ups and my muscle-ups, I'm just taking one step forward into my swing. It's a very minimal swing. That's all you need. As long as you have some sort of backwards momentum helping you, it's gonna give you the necessary force to have that C shape over the bar. If you're doing your pull-ups with a grip that looks kind of like this, where your wrist is completely under the bar, consider having a more active grip, right? So a false grip is where your wrist is sitting over the bar. So the bar would be here and my wrist is sitting over it. For an active grip, your wrist is just slightly bent. So this is a bad grip. This is a not activated grip. This is a slightly activated grip. And this is the false grip. We want this type of grip because this is going to engage the flexors in our forearm. So this is how the active grip will look like. And already holding the bar that way, I feel so much more confident with my pull. Let's talk about the swing. So with the swing, like we discussed earlier, it's just gonna be a tiny swing, right? We don't wanna launch ourselves, just a tiny swing. It's gonna look like this. That's it. This is the whole swing that you'll ever need. Now let's talk about how we're gonna use the swing in our explosive pull-ups. So we're going to swing, and as we're at the apex of the swing and starting to swing backward, that's when we want to pull. Another thing is when you reach the apex of your swing, you want to let yourself come through your arms. This is gonna allow you to stretch reflex and generate even more power. So at this fully stretched positions, our tendons are loaded. They have a lot of elastic energy in them. And so then when we pull, we're gonna have much more power going into the pull-up. So it'll look something like this. So banded muscle-ups are going to be an amazing exercise paired with explosive pull-ups to unlock the muscle-up. So to set up the band, you simply throw it over the bar and then feed it through and you're done, okay? Then you'll just put one foot in. Don't put both feet in, just keep one foot in. And use a resistance band that allows you to do a clean form muscle-up, okay? If you're using a band, you should not be kipping as well, okay? Pick a struggle. So it's important that you have multiple resistance bands that you can work with that provide enough resistance that makes sense. You can buy a pack on Amazon for like 15, 20 bucks and be able to use all of them at different stages based on where you're at. So for example, when you start your muscle up journey, you'll be using a really thick resistance band to get clean muscle ups. But every single week, you can try to do cleaner and cleaner muscle ups with less and less resistance. Now, it's important to note that this exercise is not going to build the strength needed to perform the muscle up. This is simply going to work on refining your technique and increasing your efficiency when it comes to the skill. Explosive pull-ups are going to do all of the heavy lifting when it comes to actually building the strength to do the skill. So now I'll demonstrate how banded muscle up should look like. You want to think of doing this like an explosive pull-up and then flicking both arms over the bar at the same time. So we're going to swing and that's exactly how your banded muscle up should look like, okay? We're combining everything that we've learned in the explosive pull-up and we're just adding this transitionary phase of flicking both arms over the bar. You can transition earlier than you think. Oftentimes people pull high enough but they're scared to transition. As soon as you pull and your arms get here, already think of flicking them over the bar, okay? Don't wait until you're here and then trying to get over. Get over as quick as you can. And this is gonna improve with banded muscle up training, right? You're gonna refine your technique, you're gonna start to get an understanding for the skill, and your efficiency will get better and better. The more efficient you are with the technique of the muscle up, the lower the barrier to entry is to unlocking the skill when it comes to your explosive pulling strength. It's very important that you do all of your explosive work in the beginning of your training when you're fresh. Doing explosive type of training is not fatiguing at all because you will never be working close to failure. When you're training your explosive pull-ups specifically, you should not be doing more than 3 to 5 repetitions per set. However, the intent needs to be to pull as explosively as possible. If you are just thinking of this as normal pull-ups, you'll never get the muscle up. You have to think of pulling as hard as you can and as high as you can. You want to think of touching the bar to your belly button, okay? That's gonna be the end goal. Of course, when you start, you'll only get your bar over the chin where it'll look like a normal pull-up. But with time and with enough thinking of applying that intent, you will start to pull higher and higher. So again, I want to reiterate, when you start doing explosive pull-ups, they're gonna look like normal pull-ups, but you have to have that intent to pull as high as you can, okay? I understand it will be discouraging, so what you guys can do is actually attach a band to your explosive pull-ups so you get the sensation of pulling higher. This isn't necessary at all, but it can give you a proof of concept that you are doing it right. Even though when you do the bodyweight version, it might seem like a normal pull-up. If you attach a band and you have that explosive intent, you'll see how far you're actually pulling, right? How high you're actually touching the bar. So now we'll get into demonstrating the explosive pull-up. When it comes to measuring progress in your explosive pull-ups, we don't care about rep ranges, okay? Throw this idea of increasing reps out the window. You need to record your sets and see, are you pulling higher than last time? That's gonna be the ultimate indicator of if you're progressing or not. And don't expect to see change from session to session. Your body needs time to adapt. Give it enough volume, give it enough rest, and week to week, month to month, you will see substantial improvements when it comes to your explosive capabilities. So let's talk about a general training approach you could use to get your first clean muscle ups. You want to start your training with explosive pull-ups because like we have stated, these are the most integral part of unlocking the muscle up. Following the explosive pull-up sets, you can now work on banded muscle ups. So working on refining your technique and getting more efficient with the movement. From there, you can move into your normal pull day. Whether that be weightlifting or calisthenics based, that's going to be more of your high rep failure work. And then I also recommend, apart from your pull days or your pull focus days, have a day where you have muscle up attempts. So this could be an active rest day where you go out, you go to the gym, and you try to do your first bodyweight muscle up. It doesn't matter how shitty the form is, just try your hardest to get your first bodyweight muscle up using all of the practice from your pull training. Also, this is up to you, but on days you feel amazing in your pull day, like you feel more explosive than you normally do, when it comes to your banded muscle ups, maybe try to drop the resistance level. Use a lighter band than you did the session before, and see if you can keep doing clean muscle ups with a lighter resistance band. This is another form of progressive overload we can use apart from rep counting. Anyone can learn the muscle up. The muscle up is a fantastic display of coordination as well as pulling strength and is one of the staple skills in all of calisthenics. Train it consistently. Be okay with some days being absolutely horrible because you're going to experience those when it comes to this skill. But as long as you stay consistent, as long as you keep training and putting your focus on some of the things that we discussed, you will achieve this skill. I hope you guys found this muscle up tutorial helpful. If you guys did, consider subscribing to the channel for more tutorials and informational content about calisthenics. Also, if you have any in-depth questions about the muscle up or other calisthenics skills, consider joining my community with over 1,700 members where myself and other high-level athletes can answer your guys' questions. The link for the community will be in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.